Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elle, and today I'm going to be doing a really fun video where I talk about the first book I ever read from some of my favorite authors and then my favorite book that I've read by them. So this was kind of a trend on Bookstagram and I don't really remember who started it, so if I find out that information I'll tag them in the video below, in the description below. But I just thought this was such a good idea and I wanted to kind of do one but on BookTube. So let's get right into this video. The first author I'm going to talk about is Elsie Silver. I absolutely love Elsie Silver. I first read Flawless by her, and this is the first book in the Chestnut Spring series. It is amazing. It is a hate to love romance between a bull rider and the daughter of his publicist guy. And so they end up having to travel together, and the hero, he kind of had some bad press because he talked down about one of his sponsors, which was like a milk sponsorship, and so now people are mad at him and think he's kind of spoiled, and so she kind of has to go on tour with him while he is at different I guess rodeos. Yeah, I think so. And they end up having to share a bed one night, and it's hate to love. It was really good. I still love this one, but my all-time favorite is Wild Love by her. I love so many books by Elsie Silver, but this is a recent favorite. This one was so good. So Ford and Rosie have known each other their whole lives, and Rosie is coming back after being fired from her job, and she is just kind of trying to figure out her life. So she's going back to her small town where she grew up, and Ford is there, and he has recently become a billionaire or a millionaire, I can't really remember, and he recently found out that he is a dad to a 12-year-old girl. And when he was 19 years old, he ended up donating sperm. So this is, it wasn't like he hooked up with somebody and never knew about the kid. It was more of more separate than that. So he, has this girl in his life, and he's I don't know how to be a parent at all. And it's pretty funny. And Rosie starts working with him with his business, and they just have such good banter together. He is also her brother's best friend, and it's kind of childhood friends to lovers. It's super sweet. Ford is just such a cinnamon roll hero. He's such a good guy, and I just loved him so much. And just him, trying to relate to a 12-year-old girl and connecting with her was just really cute to see. And I loved Rosie's relationship with his daughter. It was just such a good romance. The audiobook is amazing. It is narrated by Zachary Weber, and he is one of my favorite narrators ever. This book is just made me so giddy and just feel happy while I was listening to it, and I love this one. The next author I have is Laura Pavlov, and the first book I read by her was Into the Tide. This is a brother's best friend forbidden romance. So the heroine and hero have known each other, their whole lives, and she's coming back to the small town the summer before she's going to take this big job in Chicago, I think. And they kind of start having a romance, and they have to keep it hidden from her brother. And they also kind of have a time limit because, she's going to be moving away at the end of the summer. And this one was really good. I remember I gave it 4.5 stars. It was just good. I really liked it, but my favorite by her is in the same series as this one. It's actually the last book in the series, which is After the Storm, which is a second chance single dad romance. So the hero and heroine were together in high school, and they kind of broke up mutually, but she ended up jumping into a relationship after their breakup, and he ended up getting another woman pregnant. So now it is 10 years later, and she was coming back to the small town to take care of her dad, and the hero has a daughter, and they kind of just reconnect, and it's an amazing second chance romance. They are both so excited over the other, and there's mutual pining. And it was just such a good angsty romance, and I love this one. Then I have Lorraine Heath. I love Lorraine Heath, and the first book I read from her is a 5 stars, and one of my favorites from her, which is Once More My Darling. And this is actually an overboard retelling. And so the heroine is kind of this, rich, spoiled brat, and I think she like falls into the river in like London, and the hero ends up saving her. But he kind of, you know, she looked down upon him and he wants to get revenge, and so he says that she is his servant, and so she has to end up being his servant, and they end up, you know, having a romance. But it's just like really funny because she's like, I don't think this is who I'm supposed to be, like this this just doesn't feel like me, and he's like, no, this is you. Like, it's just really, really funny. So I really like this one, but one of my favorites from her is actually the Duchess Hunt, and I have a lot of favorites from her, but I wanted to include this one on here because I don't talk about it enough. So the heroine is, I think, the assistant to the hero, and the hero is a duke, and he is looking for a duchess, and so I think she is trying to like help him, you know, find someone, but they end up falling for each other instead. And I just remember loving this one, and just, it was so sweet, and I love Lorraine Heath's romances, and this one was really, really good. I did read it a couple of years ago, so like the memories of the book are a little fuzzy, but in general I remember absolutely loving this one. Then I had to put Catherine Cowles on this list. The first book I read by her was Tattered Stars, and I gave this one 4 stars. It was a really good introduction to this series, but it just didn't feel like an earth-shattering romance. It is a hate-to-love romance, and the hero is the sheriff of the small town, and the heroine's family kind of, you know, lives off the grid, and they are just kind of like weird people. Like, they, you know, are very doomsday and prepare for stuff like that, but her father's really crazy, and he ends up kidnapping the hero's younger sister. And so the heroine is actually the one that saved his sister and was like, my dad kidnapped this girl, like, this is wrong. And so now it is years later, and she's kind of been ostracized from the small town, and she's moving back, living back on the property that her family owned, and her family hates her as well, so she just feels like very alone. And the hero is like the sheriff in town, and he kind of blames her for what happened to his sister, but it wasn't her fault. And so they have a romance, and he has to like protect her because of some like stalkery things happening, and it's really good. I just did not love it as much as Echoes of You, which is a part of her Lost and Found series. This is a friends to lovers, childhood friends to lovers, small town romance, a little bit more suspense than her other series, the Tattered and Torn series, which Tattered Stars is a part of. And this one is so good. So Maddie, she kind of like left town after she graduated, and she jumped into a relationship with this guy, and she ended up getting engaged to him, and he ended up becoming very abusive towards her, and so she is on the run from him, goes back to her small town, and the hero is a cop there, and he literally sees her for the first time and sees a bruise on her, and he's like, who did this to you? Like, I'm going to come after them. And I loved it, and they just fell so easily back into their friendship and their banter. It was just such a good romance. And then of course there's some suspense with her ex, and I just love Nash. She's one of my favorite heroes from Catherine Cowles. I had to put Giana Darling on this list as well. I love her so much. I started reading her books in late 2018, 2019. She is just amazing. So the first book I read by her was actually Welcome to the Dark Side, because this is kind of funny, because I know that Jess from Peace Love Books, she first started with this one too, and then went back and read the first book and the third book, and that's what I did too. So when I first read this, I was like, oh my god, this is so good. And this is a forbidden age gap romance where it's kind of like a pen pal romance, kind of, a little bit, but the hero and heroine have known each other all of her life. He actually saved her from, like, you know, getting shot at, and he went to jail because of that, and so they would write each other letters. He's also the president of this motorcycle club called the Fallen Men, and now it is years later when she's older and she's like 17, and she is trying to seek him out again, but he stopped writing to her because he felt like it was getting a little inappropriate for her to write him. And she wants to kind of see the dark side of life and like experience it, and she wants to do that with him. So it is an age gap, but she is not like underage, and it's just a really good romance. It's darker motorcycle romance, amazing. But my favorite, that's one of my favorites by her, but I wanted to include When Heroes Fall by Giana Darling. I love a good mafia romance, and this is actually a duet, and it is amazing. So the heroine, she is a lawyer, and she ends up being on the hero's lawyer team, and he is being framed for murdering another mafioso in New York City. And she absolutely detests the mafia because of her childhood. She grew up in Italy where the mafia was very prevalent, and it, you know, did some things to her family that was pretty bad, and to her, like, trauma wise. And so now she has to work with him and be around him all the time, and she hates the mafia, and he just wants her so badly. And it's really good. She ends up having to stay with him in his house because he's under like house arrest, and they just grow closer and closer. It's like kind of hate to love. An older hero, he is half English and half Italian, and I love him so much. This is just one of my favorite heroes ever. He is so romantic. I love this book. Then I had to include Becca Tyler on this list. I love Becca Tyler. She is the queen of ink, like, you know, forbidden romances. She's just so good at writing them. So the first book I read by her was Unconditional. Now this is a pretty taboo romance. I would not recommend this to people who do not like age gaps and forbidden romances. So the hero saves the heroine when she is like 5 years old, I think from her like home life, or I don't really remember what happened to her, but anyways, oh wait, yes, I think she just had like a bit bad like home life or something, and so he took her as his own, like under his wing, and you know, she grew up under his house and they became really close, and then they have a relationship, and he is a cop. It is very forbidden, taboo. Some people don't love it because he grew up knowing her whole life, but I remember enjoying it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but my favorite by her is Keep Her Safe, which is a bodyguard age gap forbidden romance. That one is just so good. I love it. The heroine is a movie star, and the hero starts working as her bodyguard when she turns 18, and they kind of have, you know, pining and chemistry for 5 years, and then she breaks up with her longtime boyfriend, and she makes her feelings known to the hero, and is like, I really like you, but he's like, I can't go there with you, that would be wrong, like I have to protect you. And she's like, you can protect me and we can be together. And it's very spicy and really, really good. Then I have Candy Steiner on this list. The first book I read by her was Weightless, and I love this one. It is so good. It's like a good first book, like one of her first books that she wrote. It is definitely not as spicy as her other books, but it's still really good. So the heroine, she is, you know, plus size, and she broke up with her boyfriend, or her boyfriend broke up with her before like the end of their senior year, and she's about to go off to college and, you know, start her life, and she's in this friend group still with her ex-boyfriend, and his new girlfriend just makes fun of her weight all the time. And so she's like, you know what, I want to do something about it, and she decides to hire a private trainer, and that is the hero, and they start, you know, bonding, and you know, they are very similar then different, and he's kind of known as the town lone wolf. And there's also some suspense in this one, which was pretty fun, but I remember really enjoying it. I give it 5 stars at the time. I don't know what I would give it now, maybe 4 stars, but it was just really good. But my favorite by her is Close Quarters. I love this romance. It is so good. It is just such a fun, like, atmospheric setting. So the heroine and her boyfriend are traveling, you know, in Europe around the Mediterranean, but he is going to be working on a yacht for the summer, and she was just going to go on her own. She is a photographer, so she wanted to get some good photos for her portfolio, and she is like graduating college, I think. And when she's, you know, saying goodbye to her boyfriend, the owner of the yacht is like, why don't you just stay for the summer, and like you could take pictures, but then you could take a couple pictures for my business. And she's like, okay. So she agrees, and the hero is the owner of the yacht. He's also a billionaire. He's older, and they just start connecting, but it's forbidden because she's still in a relationship. And it is just so atmospheric because you get to see all of the places that they travel to around the Mediterranean. And I just remember loving this one and just like wanting to go on a trip to like Italy and Greece on a yacht. And it was just so good. I love this one of my favorites. And then I wanted to put Cora Riley on this list. I have not read a new book from her in years, but I do remember really enjoying her books and I wanted to do something different. So the first book I read by her was Bound by Honor. I always forget the title of that one. At the time I gave it 5 stars, but probably maybe like 4 stars now. I don't know, 4.5. So this is an arranged marriage, mafia romance, and the heroine is very like, you know, virgin, and she's like, you know, very naive, and the hero, you know, is the classic mafioso guy, just like, you know, dominating alpha hero. And I remember liking it at the time, but I don't know how I'd feel now because I read that in the beginning of my romance journey. So, but my favorite by her is Twisted Pride, where we have the hero. It's just this like psychotic like mafia guy, and he is just so funny, but Serafina, the heroine, just doesn't take his crap and stands up for herself, and he kind of steals her, I think, from her wedding maybe, like she was supposed to marry someone else. And it's a pretty crazy ride, their romance. I just remember loving it. It was just so epic, so fast-paced. I definitely love the Cora Chronicles more than her other series. Like, it's just more fast-paced, and I love it. Feels more equal between the hero and heroines. Like, it isn't just like the hero being the dominant guy and like the heroine not having a voice, really. Like, they're very equal. So I love that one. It is so good. It is so action-packed, mafia, very like on your toes the whole time. All right, well, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing me chat about my first books that I read by my favorite authors and then my favorites from them, because I think this is such a fun video idea, and I want to thank you so much for watching this video. And definitely down below let me know your firsts from your favorite authors and your favorites from them, because I would love to know. And I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.
I was never the one to write up a song for just anyone. I was always the one to find myself lost in long conversations, oh, 'cause I've always been told that things will unfold if you